And so we return to the Tales of series for this entry. It goes without saying that there are a ton of amazing characters throughout the Tales of series, across all of the different games, but once again I am going to be discussing my favorite entry in the series, Tales of the Abyss, and the character that was my favorite from the start, only to grow better throughout the game, Gaillardia Galangardios, better known as Guy Cecil. As a child, Gaillardia was a member of the royal house of Gardios. We do not get to see much of his childhood, however, as this family was massacred years prior to the events of the main game. The culprit was none other than Duke Fabre, the father of protagonist Luc von Fabre. A young Gaillardia was the sole survivor, more on how that came to be later. Furious at this, Gaillardia renamed himself to Guy Cecil and infiltrated House Fabre as a servant to Luc, with the hopes of hurting the Duke in the same way that he hurt him, by killing Luc. In the end, though, this was a scheme he never followed through with, because he actually befriended Luc. The young noble almost became something of a little brother to him, and eventually, Guy was more than just his servant, he was his best friend. While he still hated Duke Fabre for what he did and never truly forgave him, his desire for revenge eventually fell to the wayside, and he decided to continue serving Luc, both as a servant and as a close friend. Truth be told, the finer details of how he came to this decision are never shown, but what is shown is their excellent friendship throughout the story. Like you'd expect from two close friends, Guy's interactions with Luc are littered with light jabs at him, and Luc can jab back. Even still, Guy isn't a stranger to being genuine when it's needed, and even giving the hard truth to his friend. When Luc is at his lowest point from causing the destruction of an entire city, and learning that he's actually a replica of the real Luc von Fabre made 7 years ago, Guy doesn't hold back because he knows coddling Luc isn't what he needs. Instead, Guy tells Luc not to make him look down on him more than he already does. Even after this comment, though, Guy is the first one to acknowledge that while Luc is to blame for the destruction and death, he himself is not without blame. He played a large role in this Luc's nurturing, and beyond that, this new Luc is only 7 years old. Even if he's treated as a 17-year-old, there's no way that he could have made the right choice in the situation he was placed in. Guy was the only one who realized this, and was initially the only one who could see that Luc would be able to change. And all of this came to a head during his talk with Luc to talk him out of sacrificing himself to save the world. He may be mad that a 7-year-old is even thinking about throwing his life away, but deep down, he's proud of Luc's change from a selfish brat to someone who's willing to give up their life for the world. Now, I've spent plenty of time gushing about his fleshed-out friendship with Luc, but how does he stand on his own as a character? Well, pretty well, and this is seen best in his personal arc involving his crippling fear of women. Okay, I can explain. Despite how that sounds, Guy gets along just fine with most of the female characters in the game, and he even admits that he enjoys looking at a pretty girl from time to time. Even still, it's revealed early on that Guy is impulsively terrified of contact with any women, to the point that it causes a violent physical reaction from him almost all of the time. While played for comedy a couple times, he himself acknowledges how concerning it is. He eventually remembers the suppressed traumatic memory that triggered this gynophobia. During the attack on the House of Gardios, Guy was the only one to survive because of the protection of his sister and handmaids, who shielded his body to protect and hide him, leaving him buried under the corpses of various women he knew and loved. With that in mind, such a ridiculous-sounding phobia is entirely and tragically understandable. But he understands that it does no good for anyone, so he does his best to overcome it. It was moving seeing Guy push past some of his old barriers, starting with him saving one of the party members, Annis, from falling to her death by grabbing her hand, something that physically still terrified him, but he forced himself to do it for her. This is at its peak when Luc decides to go through with his plans to sacrifice himself to save the world, and Tyr, the main female protagonist, tries to stop him. However, while Guy doesn't like this plan at all, he respects Luc's decision, and physically holds Tyr back when she attempted to run to Luc. A true testament to his friendship with and respect for Luc, as well as how much he managed to defeat his phobia over the course of the game. This entry has gone on long enough, but I would like to quickly mention that Luc is also an amazing character in his own right, enough to deserve this quick mention. Unfortunately for him, though, I like Jade and Guy just a bit better, and there's only room for 2 characters from any given series on this list with the honorable mentions. Maybe he'll get his own impromptu entry someday in the future. He definitely deserves it. Just just go play Tales of the Abyss, please.